We are live.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to ATP Live. Today, as usual, we have the CEO of Ask the Paediatrician in person of Dr. Gbemisola Boyede. I hope we are ready with our questions. Please remember to invite your friends, invite your family, share this video with your loved one, and get them ready with every questions that they have concerning their child health, either your child or your friend's child, it can even be your family child. Dr. Gbemisola Boyede is here to give answers to all your concerns. Good evening, Dr. Gbemi. Welcome to ATP Live once again.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening for those who are watching on Facebook, those who are watching on YouTube and our Instagram. You're welcome. For those who are watching on Instagram, you may not see Omolara Abimbola, but you will hear her voice, but you can see my face. So welcome to another episode of ATP Live Monday. And this is an opportunity for you to ask your questions on any child health issues, and we will try and answer them in the next 1 hour or so. So we'll start taking the questions very soon. Malara will read and I will answer. But before we start, I'll just crave your indulgence for us to share the videos, to just share, invite everybody, and so that they can join us. So you're all welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gbemi. So for as many people that are watching us right now, please don't forget to share the video. Press the share button right away. Invite your friends and family. Don't forget, this is an opportunity for them to ask as many questions as they have. And please, when you are asking your question, don't forget to tell us your child's weight, the age of the child as well. Please, these are very important, most especially when you are asking us questions about complementary feeding or even your child weight. Don't forget your child weight and your the age of your child. Thank you so much. Let's get it through. Dr. Gbemi, we are having some people here. The first person is saying, Dr. Gbemi, I love you. Thank you for all you do. You made me a pediatrician. Wow, you are an inspiration to someone here. Wow, that's good.
God, thank you so much for your kind words. But you cannot be a pediatrician just by listening to Dr. Gbemi.
Yeah, she said she's not a doctor to my children. Wow.
You have to go to you have to go to medical school, and they can give you that word. Okay. All right. So I was just using the opportunity while Malara was talking to make sure that everybody can see the videos, and I think it is pinned in all our groups now. Let me just use 1 minute to make sure that they are all in the pinned featured post section. So just 1 minute and we can start taking the questions.
So while we wait for Dr. Gbemisola Boyede, I believe that we all know that this is a new era of ATP. We are starting our new year since last month. And next month is our ATP Goes to School. As usual, we are pleading with you, the community, please support us. Nothing is small. Please support us. You can give us 500 naira, as low as that, 1,000 naira, 5,000 naira. We want to reach so many communities this time around. We're going to go to a lot of schools in all the states in Nigeria, even outside Nigeria, like we know we have a branch in Ghana right now. So please, to school, which come up next month during Independence.
Oh, okay. Hamalara, is it there? It seems like you were...
I'm here, ma. I'm here. Can you hear me?
You faded away. Yes, I can hear you now. That's fine. All right. So, yes. Okay. I think I'm done now with all the sharing and pinning and all that. So, yes, you can ask your question as comments on... For somebody is asking... Somebody saying my voice is not audible. Okay. I think it's... Can you hear me now? I hope you can... I mean, that's on Instagram. So, I hope you can hear me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if you can hear me, so feel free to drop your questions as comments, or you can use the the question box as well on Instagram. So feel free to ask your questions and we can answer them. So don't send us a DM, send your questions
Yeah.
straight onto the platform where you're watching right now. Thank you so much, Miss Mikun, for
People
asking
on
the question.
Facebook, can they hear us on Facebook?
Yes, I think they can see us. They can, and I can see they already started
Okay.
asking their questions. All right, I think we're ready to start.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. We have a question. Good evening, ma'am. 25 at birth, have umbilical granular. Can I be clean or it will go off on its own?
Okay, thank you so much. So the first question for those who couldn't hear Lara because it seems to fade out a little bit. I think maybe it's the network. The question is about umbilical granuloma. So for those who don't know umbilical granuloma, so when babies are born, babies are connected to their mothers through what we call the umbilical cord. So the placenta, which is the source of blood and nourishment to the baby, I mean, everything passes through that umbilical cord to the baby in the womb. So it's a connection between the baby and the mother. So when a baby is born, what we normally do is to cut it off because it's no longer necessary. The baby is now becoming an independent human being, and so we cut the cord, and then the baby is separated from the mother. And then usually, it's a raw area, so we usually put a cord clamp. So I'm sure all the mothers know what I'm talking about. And after a while, the parts of the cord that was cut will shrivel, it will become like dead tissue, and it will fall off, and that place will heal and become what we call the navel. So sometimes when the cord has fallen off, you may see some like pinkish tissue. During the process of the healing, you will see something that look like pink uh, swelling or something on it. It's an excessive, what we call granulation tissue. It is part of the healing process, but it can be excessive, and then it will come out like a small swelling, which we call umbilical granuloma. So what we normally need to do, most of them are very tiny, so eventually they will also dry off. And the most important thing for the cord is that it does not get infected, that there's no infection. So that's why we normally recommend that you clean the cord with the methylated spirit or use the chlorhexidine gel. So those are the two options for cord care, especially for those of us living in Africa or areas where there's a lot of humidity. Because in some places where there's not much of humidity or high temperature, actually they don't need to do anything to the cord. They just leave it alone and it will just dry off. But in places where there's a lot of chances of bacterial infection, it's best to clean the cord either with methylated spirit or with chlorhexidine gel once daily. So that is what is recommended. So for the granulation, excessive granulation tissue, which is the umbilical granuloma, the most important thing is that it doesn't get infected. So you can keep cleaning with your spirit. If it's really big or you're really worried, we can actually cut it off. It can be burnt off. There are methods, we call it cauterization, which we can apply what we call silver nitrate and all that to it, and it will kind of burn off that excessive tissue and it will just heal. But most of them, if they are just tiny, there's really no need for all that. Just keep cleaning with either methylated spirit or even just salt. So if you put salt in water and you use the gauze and wrap it around, again, it's all about making sure it doesn't get infected, pending the time that it will dry off by itself and it will fall off. So it's not something to worry about. It's not you don't need to do any other thing else beyond making sure that you keep the areas clean and dry and not infected until it will completely fall off by itself, and until the cord, you see the navel like normal skin, then you know that the cord is fully healed. That is it. And when the cord has fully healed and it has become like normal skin, the skin over the navel is like the other skin in covering the rest of the body, then you know it is fully healed. At that point, you don't need to do anything, because a lot of people say, ask, okay, what do I keep doing? even after the cord has fallen off? Should I keep pressing with hot water? Should I keep applying Vaseline? Or you don't need to apply anything. Just leave it alone. Once it has healed, it has become normal skin, no raw area, no other granulation tissue. There's nothing else you need to do to the cord beyond the usual skincare. You bath the baby, you put oil on. You don't need to do anything extra to the cord or to the navel. You don't need to mop with hot water. You don't need to mop with dry heat. You don't need to do anything else. Just leave it alone. I hope that is clear for the person asking that question.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you,
All right, we
Dr.
can move
Amy.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our second question. She said, "Good evening, doctor. Thanks for the work. Please, ma." Oh, okay. We have one before that. That says, "Good evening. Okay. I presently give my twins baby formula and breast milk because of their birth weight, which is 1.8 kg and 2.3 kg. Can I stop and start exclusive breastfeeding? I really want to do."
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for that question. It would be nice for you to always tell us the age of your babies, like Omolara reminded us. For pediatricians, it is so extremely important for us to know which age category you are talking about, because everything we do, the recommendations sometimes are age related. In fact, most of the time they have. So we always know, even though you are telling us the twins, but you didn't tell us how old these twins are now. So it's important that you tell us the age of the twins. Now, there's a lot of misconception people have about preterm babies. People think that preterm babies, they are very small, and because of that, the people want to quickly fill them up so that they can gain weight and all that. Mothers always just feel like breast milk will never be enough, and that's okay. They just have to do formula and all that. Actually, that is the worst thing that people can actually do to preterm babies. Preterm babies are actually better off on the mother's breast milk than on formula. In fact, most of the time, we don't want formula for preterm babies, because when you give them formula, they're actually prone to having what we call necrotizing enterocolitis. It's one of the complications for preterm babies, and is formula feeding is part of the predisposing factors to that complication. So for preterm babies, they really need breast milk even more than anybody else, because number one, the milk you produce as a mom of a preterm baby is actually different from the milk that a mom who does not have a preterm baby produce, because the breast milk is so customized. It is per each baby. So a baby who is born preterm, the kind of milk the mother will produce is going to be different from a baby who was born at term. So nature has made it that way so that your baby actually gets the best from your breast milk, and you can produce enough breast milk, because at that age, the amount of volume of fluid of milk we give them is actually not much again. People think that you have to quickly feed them so that they can gain weight, but actually that is the opposite of what's going to happen. If you give too much food to preterm babies, they actually stop gaining weight. I know it looks contradictory, because when you give them too much volume, you cause their hearts and they cannot handle it. So they go into what we call like a form of heart failure, and then they begin to, have more problems, and they actually will stop gaining weight. So usually, when for those who have preterm babies, I'm sure you know that we usually measure the volume of the milk. We usually tell you start with 5 mils, then we tell you, okay, let's go to 10 mils. If you remember when your baby was in neonatal intensive care unit, that is how preterm babies are fed. We really are very particular about the volume that we give to them. So they don't need for you to overload them. We don't want them to gain weight too rapidly. We want them to gain weight normally. So we know what is expected for them. So don't make the mistake because you have preterm baby, you feel like I need to overfeed them quickly so that they can become very fat. You're actually going to do them more harm. And also they don't need formula. They need their mother's breast milk. So we only will give them formula if we could not get breast milk, if we are pushed to the wall. But as much as we want to actually give them their mother's milk, because that is the best milk for them. And if I thought you have to give preterm baby formula, it's a special formula again. It's not the usual one that you buy in the market. It has to be prescribed by a pediatrician. It has to be a milk specially made for preterm babies. But as much as possible, what the best is still the mother's breast milk. So for this mom who is asking, I decided to go into that background so you can understand why it's so important. So this is not even a matter of because you like to do it. It's because that is actually the best for your baby. The best for a preterm baby is the mother's breast milk. And you can do it for your preterm babies. Another thing I need to quickly add for preterm babies are in the beginning we usually prefer them to be, but we prefer them to take by cup and spoon rather than direct breastfeeding, because a mother asked us this question recently, that she's breastfeeding, and the more she breastfeeds, it seems that baby is losing weight or not gaining weight. Sucking is a lot of work. Most of you don't know that, but that is the major work that baby do. So sucking takes energy. So they burn energy when they're sucking. So for preterm babies, all the food we're giving them, we don't want them to use it to suck. We don't want them to use it to burn energy sucking. We want them to use it to gain weight. So that is why we prefer that, actually, when they are still below 1.5 kilos, we want you to be giving them most of the milk as cup and spoon. I didn't say bottle feeding, no, cup and spoon. So, and then by the time they're about 1.5 and above, we allow them to suck so that they will learn to suck, but not more than maybe 3 times a day. But the rest of it, every 2 hours, we want them to be cup and spoon fed, so they will conserve the calories into gaining weight rather than burning weight, rather than losing, sucking and burning energy sucking. And finally, for preterm babies, all preterm babies must be followed up by pediatricians. I see a lot of questions about preterm babies, and they worry me a lot because it shows that that baby is not under the care of a pediatrician, because everything about the preterm baby, including how you feed them, the quantity of milk you feed them with, and all that, has to be monitored by the pediatricians, and we increase their food according to how they gain weight. So there are lots of things, permutation that we have to be doing along the way, and we need to monitor their blood level, because they are also prone to what we call anemia of prematurity. And sometimes it's not all about food. If they are anemic, they don't have enough blood, they're not going to gain weight even if you give them all the volume of food in the world. So there are a lot of things that come into the care of the preterm babies, more than the term babies, that require that a pediatrician is fully involved. So if you give too much food, you can cause them not to gain weight. If they are not having enough blood, they may not gain weight, and that's nothing to do with the food they are eating. So those are the things that pediatrician are checking. That's why you see us giving them folic acid, give us iron. Sometimes we give them hormones like erythropoietin, because we want them to have enough blood. If they don't have that, sometimes we need to add like bicarbonate to their food, because if they have too much acidity in the blood, they're not going to gain weight. So there are a lot of things that go into the weight gain of preterm babies that has nothing to do with even just the milk alone. So that is why all preterm babies must be under the care. And I don't care how big the baby is. Most of you think, oh, but maybe it's big now, maybe it's sucking, then I don't need a pediatrician. You still need them. For the first 2 years of the life of a preterm baby, they are still vulnerable. They are still high risk babies. They must be followed up by the pediatrician. So I hope for the Facebook teacher, you can stop. You can always start exclusive. You can always start exclusive breastfeeding whenever, as long as the breast milk is available. You can always start. Amalara, should I take a few questions from?
Yes, please.
Instagram?
Yes, please. Yes.
There are not many, so I think Instagram people are just joining
Coming
us.
on.
Coming on.
Okay.
Okay. I hope you can all hear me now. Please ask your question on Instagram. Somebody was asking. Please ask it directly as comments. Somebody said good evening. I was the one that asked about formula and breast milk for twins. Okay, they are currently 8 weeks. Okay, you are watching both on Instagram and on
Oh.
Facebook. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
So thank you so much for asking the question, Raku baby. So you can start breastfeeding your babies, but 1.8, 2 points. What is their current weight now?
2.3.
Yeah, if they are still
Okay.
weighing at that level, is it the current weight or the birth weight?
I think she
Okay,
gave us
that
the
was the
birth weight.
birth weight. So we need
Yeah.
to know their current weight. But for them, they are big now. You can breastfeed them, but don't do only breastfeeding all day. Do some feeding as spoon and cup and spoon, and do some feeding as direct breastfeeding, so that they can be gaining weight well. And don't forget to always follow them up by your pediatrician. Okay, please ask your question. I think that's all the question I have on Instagram. So let's go back to Facebook.
Okay, we have a couple of questions on Facebook. Okay. Good evening, doctor. Thanks for the work. Please, ma'am. My 3-year-old daughter is having knockings. At birth, it was bow leg. It became straight at 2 years. And now, one of the leg is knocking to the others. Is it something I should worry about? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I don't know why mothers always ask me to worry. I always like to say you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, so I don't want you to worry about anything, but I want you to seek intervention if necessary. So definitely, I'm going to be concerned if a 3-year-old had bow leg now having knocked knees. I didn't get whether you saw a doctor before or anybody before the leg became straight, or whether it just happened naturally. And so, but I would recommend at this point that you see either a pediatrician or an orthopedic surgeon. Those are the experts. For the pediatricians, we will investigate to know why your baby could have knock knees. Sometimes it could just be like what we call like something physiological, something that is just happening and it will just correct by itself. But sometimes it could be due to things like rickets. You know, rickets, there are different kind of rickets. You have the genetic one, you have the vitamin D deficiency, calcium deficiency, that kind of thing. Or it could even be due to other conditions. There are conditions that look like bow legs or knock knees, but they are really not that. We have things like Blount's disease. There are a lot of them. So it's the job of the pediatrician to investigate to know which one it is and to correct it. And if it's something that requires our orthopedic colleagues to do surgery, because some cases actually require surgery, then we're going to refer you to see the surgeons as well. So I'll recommend that you see a pediatrician. They will do the baseline test, do the X-ray, do the blood test, and they will advise you further. I hope
All
that's
right. Thank you, ma.
yeah.
So the next person is saying, good evening, doctor. My baby was born premature at 29 weeks on the 2nd of May 2022. Birth weight was 1.4 and current weight is 4.6. But my problem is that she hasn't started social smiling yet. She smiles always, but not socially. Should I be worried?
Maybe I also need to ask you, what do you mean by smile socially? Because sometimes we assume we're on the same page and we're actually not. Okay, number one, let's just start by saying for preterm babies, we don't look at the development by the date of birth. We look at it by their corrected age. So your baby was born at 29 weeks. Your baby was born 11 weeks earlier than normal, than the 40 weeks. So that means your baby is 11 weeks earlier. So if your baby was born in May, 2nd of May, today the baby is, this is September, June, July,
That's 2 months
August.
left.
So that your baby is actually 4 months old, chronological age, 4 months old. But your
Yeah.
baby is actually born almost 3
2 months.
months earlier than normal. So your baby is actually like a 1 month old baby. Do you understand my point? Your baby is actually corrected age is about maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, that is the corrected age of your baby. And social smile is actually 6 weeks to 8 weeks. Okay, so social smile is 6 to 8 weeks. So your baby is still in the eye of a pediatrician, a 5 weeks old baby. So we are not going to worry about social smile in this preterm baby because your baby was born 11 weeks earlier than normal. So we have to subtract that 11 weeks from the current age
Correct.
of your baby. So if we subtract that 11 weeks, we are coming down to maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So that means your baby is not yet developmentally ready for social smile. So there's really nothing to worry about. Again, this is why I say preterm babies have to be followed up by a pediatrician, because if you're following up by a pediatrician, one of the things we monitor is this development of the baby. And when you're seeing your pediatrician, they would have told you, oh, there's no need to worry because your baby is still not corrected age for social smile. So there's no need to worry. But please make sure you see your pediatrician as well. Okay? How
Thank
does good?
you.
Yeah.
Taiwo Busayo, please, my child is 3 months old. She breathes fast while awake playing and about to eat, but she breathes normal while sleeping.
Okay. Thank you, Taiwo, for that question. Um, for a baby, babies generally breathe faster than adults. Okay. So we have to count the respiratory rates. So I've seen a lot of adults always, oh, baby's breathing fast, but baby's actually breathing normal because babies generally breathe faster than adults. So for example, most newborn babies breathe 60 cycles per minute. In other words, they breathe 60 times in 1 minute, whereas an average adult breathes 12 to 14 times in 1 minute. So you breathe like 5 times less than what a baby will breathe. So it's important for us to get that. So mothers may think baby is breathing fast, but a pediatrician needs to see the baby So a 3 months old should be breathing at least 50 cycles per minute. And don't try to count it because you don't know how to count it. Because most people, when they are counting, they count the in and the out. No, it
Mm,
is in and out is one. So in and out.
yes.
So there's a way the doctors have to, or the nurses have to do the counting. So I usually don't tell parents to do the counting of respiratory because they always don't get that part. So there's no need to worry about. What I'll recommend is that this baby is 3 months old. Your baby should be going for immunization maybe at 14 weeks soon. So when you go for your next immunization, talk to a nurse, a doctor, anybody, and let them count the respiratory rate for your baby and write it down. So if they look at it and they count it and it is less than 50 or 50, that's normal. It is anything above 50 cycles in 1 minute that will worry us. So I'll rather you check that. But it's important that we check because yes, the baby who is breathing fast could have a heart problem, could have a lung problem. So we really need to check. So it's important that if you've noticed anything unusual with your baby's breathing, that you raise it up with any doctor or even a nurse, anybody with an expert professional. We will do the proper counting and then we will count for 1 minute. We don't count, we'll count for 1 minute and then we'll let you know whether that rate is normal or whether we need to do an intervention. I hope that's
Thank
helpful.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next question. I noticed at 4 months that my baby doesn't have an hymen. Cause I usually spread her well to wash her clean down with water after pour. Please, what could be the problem? Secondly, I have gone through the complimentary videos, but I want to rewatch them. But the guide icon doesn't display on my screen. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. This is somebody on our Facebook group, Facebook
Amen.
user. Okay, starts with number one question. A lot of mothers worry about, oh, my baby have hymen, doesn't have hymen, has a vagina opening, doesn't have vagina opening. I actually don't want. I personally, I don't think it's necessary for you as parents to be fiddling with things in that area. What you really need to look out for as a mother, what you see is what we call the vulva, the labia, and all that. So those are the things that you see, and those are the things you need to watch. You don't need to open up the baby very well, like you were saying. You don't need to be doing all that to see and all that. So, um, you have to be very careful so that because the hymen is just a thin membrane and it covers the vagina opening. So I'm not sure whether you actually know what the hymen looks like and how or where it should be. Because a lot of what people call the vagina is not the vagina. What people actually call the vagina is actually the vulva. You know, the vulva, you have the two big ribs, the labia majora, then you have the inner one, the hymen, the labia minora, then you have the clitoris. Those are the things you will likely see. So the hymen covers the vagina, which you don't say, because the vagina is actually like a muscular wall inside. It is just the opening that you can see, and that is where the hymen come. And then you also have what we call the urethra, that is where the urine comes out from. Those are the things you likely see in that area. So we don't want you as parents really looking, because most of the time when you look in, those are the things you're likely going to see is the labia majora and the minora, and those are the areas you actually need to clean. All right, because the other things is inside what we call the introitus. I don't want to go into all the bigger jargons, but what I'll recommend for you is that you can first watch a video of or a picture or your biology on Google of how the female external reproductive tract looks like. So you can see the labeling, you can now see. So that's number one thing. So if you worry about anything in that area, just let a doctor see the baby, let a pediatrician preferably examine the baby, and then they will tell you what to do. We know some babies are actually born without an hymen. There's nothing wrong with that. It's normal for some babies to be born without an hymen, and there's nothing absolutely wrong with that. Uh, there's really no reason to be worried or be bothered about hymen or no hymen and all those things. Just let it be. We worry about if the area is looking different or maybe a girl zone is looking like a boy zone, there's no opening for urine and all those kind of things. Those are the things that we worry a pediatrician. And what we want you to do is to come see a pediatrician and let them do the examination. Let them be the one to tell you whether the area is fine or not. Don't try to do anything. Don't try to be poking around the baby's genitals. Just let it be. But see a pediatrician, raise your concern. They will examine baby properly and they will let you know. And even if the IMA is not there, there's nothing we're going to do about it. Some babies are born without it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All right. The second part of your question about complementary videos. So you need to use your Facebook app, that is the full app, not the um not the Facebook lights. That's number one way. And if you go to the right, or you can use your laptop Facebook on the browser. If you go to the home page, the menu section, you will see guides. When you click on guides, you will see that they are there. Alternatively, you can go and download the Birth and Beyond app. The Birth and Beyond app, if you just Google it on our Facebook group, I'm sure you will see the link. If you go to Google Play Store or even Apple Play Store or Store rather, you will see the Birth and Beyond by Global Media Videos. You can download that app. All those videos, they are there as well, including the breastfeeding videos, the videos on complementary feeding, everything is there. And remember, your baby is 4 months old, so don't start complementary feeding yet. Your baby should start complementary feeding at 6 months. So I'm happy you are getting yourself ready to watch, but please don't start until 6 months. So I quickly remind you about that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to check if we have question on Instagram, ma'am?
I think we do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have one or two. Ronziolu said, Doc, I was one that asked about formula. Yeah, we've answered that question. Okay, say your baby are now 4.1 and 3.5. Okay, not bad. So that's good. So you can breastfeed them, and yes. Okay, okay, it's the same person asking the same question over and over again. Okay, Ronziolu, we've gotten your answer. Thank you for the updates. I think Instagram people are just listening today. They are not asking questions. So feel free to ask your question, please.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
have Facebook user. Yeah. My 3 months baby doesn't sleep more than 2 hours interval at night and during the day. Is it normal?
Okay, what do you mean 2 hours interval? So 2 hours interval of how many times in a day? So for me, it's more relevant to tell us the total number of sleep hours the baby has in a day. Because I know mothers want the baby to, maybe after feeding them, you want them to sleep for 2, 3 hours and then sleep another 3 to 4 hours. Then you want them to sleep all night. No, that's not going to happen. But what we want to happen is how many hours altogether does baby stay awake and does baby stay sleeping. Babies don't often sleep when you want them to sleep. Most time they are sleeping during the daytime, and mothers seem not to kind of forget and don't count those ones, but they remember the night one because babies are awake more at night, which is natural. So in the first few months of life, babies tend to sleep more during the day and then they tend to be awake at night. And so what I normally tell mothers is that sleep when your baby sleep and be awake when your baby is awake. There's no way you can be working so hard during the day when baby is sleeping, and then you want to sleep at night, and the baby decides to keep you awake. And that is when you actually begin to count the hours because you now begin to realize that I want to sleep and I can't sleep. Then you remember, oh, this baby has not slept more than 2 hours. And so for a 3 month old, they should sleep at least nothing less than 12 to 16 hours. 12 hours in a day will be good for a 3 month old baby, but they don't have to sleep at night only. So that's the issue. So what you really need to count is how many hours is your baby sleeping throughout the whole day. So take your diary, write it down. My baby sleep, this is the hour, so many hours. When does baby wake up? Take a diary, do it. And then you will know whether your baby is actually sleeping or not. Two, make sure you're feeding your baby well. Another reason why babies don't sleep well is if they are not well fed. Most babies, when they suck well, and they breastfeed well, then they tend to sleep at least 2 to 3 hours at a stretch before they wake up. Of course, as they get older, they tend to be more awake during the daytime and sleep more at night. They will change. Don't worry. I know most of you are like panicky that you will never sleep at night. It's going to change. They are still going to sleep at night. They are going to change. But in the first few months of life, it's normal for baby to be awake more at night than during the daytime, but they should be sleeping not less than 12 hours. So your baby is not sleeping, you need to check one, food. The baby sucking well. So make sure when you breastfeed, don't just breastfeed only before milk, like 5 minutes breastfeeding and then you stop. Because that is just like water to the baby. So they will get hungry so soon again and then they want to feed more. And then so make sure they empty the breast. So they take both the fore milk and the hind milk, which is the creamy and the fatty part of the breast milk. And if at all, if they still want more, switch to the second breast and let them empty that as well. But some people one breast will be enough for them, and that's all. So make sure they suck well. Two, make sure you change the diapers. When diapers are wet, it makes baby uncomfortable. I know a lot of mothers, finance, we're trying to save on our money, and so we don't change diapers until it is like soggy and there's poo or anything. No, you have to change diaper once it is wet, because when it is wet, whether it's not looking like there's a poo inside or not, it will irritate the baby's body, and that's why they always wake up. Three, make sure the room is cool. There's most people, they keep babies in rooms that are so hot, no ventilation, because they believe that babies must not catch cold, breeze must not enter their body, and or baby will have pneumonia. That is not true. Your baby is not going to catch cold or have pneumonia from breeze. Okay, they get it from infection. For people who have cough and cold, who have viral infection or bacterial infection, not from the hair itself. So make sure your room is cool. Babies can sleep in AC room. Yes, they can sleep in AC room. You can open the windows and let the fan circulate. The room has to be cool. Make sure there are no mosquito biting the baby. All right, because all these things are things that will make your baby to be irritated and not to sleep. So if the room is cool, baby is well fed, nappy is not wet, then baby should not have any problem sleeping. So babies can also have colic. Colic can keep them awake as well, but colic is usually a passing phase, and usually by 3 to 4 months, most colic phase will wane, and then they begin to have the sleep. But even with the colic, they will still have the period where they will sleep well. The colic tends to, I don't know why nights the babies tend to cry more at night, because you would have done everything I mentioned about. You fed them, you've cleaned them, everything is fine, and they just keep crying. So that one is colic. So what you need to do is to just, snuggle them, rock them, do whatever. Some people like white noises, some people like to be in motion. Whatever works for your baby, just do it. But the good thing about colic is that it's a passing phase, it will stop. So those are the I hope that is helpful for this
Yeah.
month. If you go to on our Facebook group, we have a chart of how many hours of sleep each baby should have per age. So you can check it up and compare for your baby as well.
Yeah, thank you. So the person that has a question about
Oh, sorry,
uh,
I jumped
the
something.
baby, yes. Okay. The person was saying, I'm the one that asks about my preterm baby that doesn't
Have to
smiles,
smile, yeah.
social smile. Okay. The
Mm,
hospital I gave birth used to see us weekly before my baby got to 2.5 kg.
mm,
But since she got 2.5, the doctor stopped seeing us. They don't see the importance of seeing the pediatrician again because I've
mm,
complained, but they said my baby is fine. I
mm,
told them what you keep telling us about being followed up by
mm.
pediatricians, but they
Yeah.
don't see it as being important.
Yeah, I understand. I guess you're going to a private hospital, because
Yeah,
private hospitals, everything in there's about cost, about money.
yeah,
And so you can take your baby to a teaching hospital. Most of us run normal baby clinic, even for babies that are born at term. And we definitely will see our preterm babies at 2 years old. That is the ideal thing. Of course, they don't have to see you every month, but at least they should be seeing you at intervals. So initially, when your baby is born, we will see you almost like every week. In fact, we will see you until your baby gains to that weight. Then maybe we'll start seeing you every month. Then after a while, we'll see you maybe every 3 months, every 1 year. But we have to see the baby. We even in like in the UK, for example, we have to do what we call a developmental assessment when your baby turns two, because that is actually when your baby stop being a preterm baby. That is when prematurity is no longer a factor. We have to check that babies. There are complications that preterm babies can have up to the age of 2 years. So we need to monitor the baby. So I don't care who that pediatrician is telling you that is not true. The pediatrician knows, maybe because they work in government, in private hospitals, and some of these hospitals, they have to pay the pediatricians to come see their children, so they don't want to incur that cost. But you can
Yeah.
always take your baby to either a general hospital or a teaching hospital, and they will follow up your baby. Most of us then follow up our inborn babies that are born in our own hospitals and all that. But
Mm.
it is important that preterm babies are followed up, and every pediatrician knows that. So, and I don't really know why they'll say they don't want to follow up your baby because your baby is now 2.5. That is wrong. So you can always go to another hospital and let your baby be followed up, because it's best we monitor this baby. Now, so where are you going to discuss all this concern you have? So you have a concern about your baby not smiling. You need a pediatrician to tell you that. And it's best to be with the pediatrician who knows your baby, who knows your baby's journey from the beginning to the end, who will understand why this, why that, who is monitoring your baby's blood level. Does the baby have anemia of maturity? There are so many things we need to monitor. We need to monitor growth, we need to monitor development. So it is not yet over until it is over. And usually for preterm babies, minimum is 2 years for us to even be saying, okay, yeah, we can begin to breathe comfortably. So it is important. All right. So please
Thank you,
find
ma'am.
a place and let them
Yeah.
see your baby.
There's this thing covering over my baby's furrow. I don't know if that is how it ought to be. She has only clitoris visible. She urinates well.
I don't know. I don't know whether this is the same person that asked about IME or not, or whether it's a
Yeah.
different person. Unfortunately, we can't see your name, so we won't know
Yeah.
which. But like the answer I gave to the other person is still the same answer. Don't fiddle with that area. When you go to your doctors, ask your question, because the doctor can examine the baby at that point and tell you what is normal, what is abnormal. For now, just let the baby be. All right, we'll take one more
Yeah.
question and
Thank
I'll
you.
go to
Okay.
Instagram. I can
Thank
see
you,
a few
ma'am.
questions there.
Good evening, doctor. God bless you. Thank you for the prayer. Please, my boy of 3 years had NASA discharge that was very smelling. A pharmacist administered Cipro injection for 3 days after swab test that noted Klebsiella pneumonia. The smell did not go away, so we went to teaching hospital and the ENT doctor just removed something from the nose, which
Mm-hmm.
stopped all wound smell and
Mm-hmm.
discharge. But when I asked if I can still continue the injection, he told me that the one I already gave is poison. So if I
Your question has been cut off.
the
Try
question
and
is not it's not complete.
no, because the question is
It's
too
too
much,
long.
even for
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
Anyway, there are many things we can learn from your story. Number one, this
Mm,
is why we always emphasize these things, but some people don't seem to understand it. Please, if your child is sick, don't take them to pharmacists. Look, when it comes to children, I don't care what you adults do to yourself, but please, when your children are sick, don't take them to a pharmacist. Take them to the hospital. We
yeah.
live in a country that is a lot of lawlessness in
Mm,
our country. I know this is Nigeria, most likely. Because even in most countries, even ampiclos,
yeah,
as
you can't get
this
it.
that's the most basic of all antibiotics. No pharmacist is going to give you without a doctor's prescription.
Yeah, yeah.
So for a pharmacist to start giving your child
Injection.
certain injection, it's not right.
Strong.
It's not. It's not. There are side effects of those drugs. There are drugs we don't just use anyhow in children. Immediately you wrote that question, any child who is having smelling inside the child, the most
Mm,
important thing to rule out is foreign body. As that child puts
yeah,
something in the nose, that is all. That is all. Not just giving unnecessary antibiotics. All drugs are poison. That is what the ENT doctor is trying to tell you.
yeah,
Doctors are poison. So if you use drugs that is not necessary, you are causing harm to the child. So the child just has a foreign body in his nose, which obviously nobody know. That is what is causing the foul smelling inside the child. And what you did last is what you should have done first. Go to the ENT doctors. They examine the nose, see what is there, and bring it out. And that is the
yeah,
end. There is nothing else to do. All right. So please, we learn from, at least you have learned from this experience. I'm sure you'll never do that again. If a child
yeah,
is sick, don't take them to pharmacy. Don't take them to chemists. Everybody, well, let me not say everybody, most people in Nigeria are just trying to make money. And sometimes people are making money at the expense of people's lives. Every pharmacist knows that you see that you should tell the person to go to the hospital. There are some conditions that pharmacists can treat, definitely, but they are not supposed to treat a child who is having foul smelling surgery. They are not supposed to be giving a child ciprofloxacin injection
Oh,
in the hospital. Do you know your child can even react to those medications?
yeah.
So they did the swab and all that. So a pharmacist is not an hospital. Okay, a pharmacy is not an hospital. Pharmacists are trained to dispense drugs, to compound drugs, to do everything related to drugs. They are
Mm,
not trained to make diagnosis in children. They are not
yes.
trained to do medical evaluation or diagnosis. Okay, they can treat some common conditions that don't that require basically over-the-counter medication, but not conditions that require the specialist. So please always do the right thing first, because you will save yourself more headache, more heartache. And I know people that do the right thing. I know pharmacists that do the right thing, but some of the people that don't do the right thing, some of them are not even pharmacists. They may even just be drug sellers. And everybody is just doing everything
They
under
call
their.
them chemists. They call them chemists, ma. Chemist. Chemist. They went
So
to
I
learn
think
chemist.
the ENT doctor is trying to tell you don't need to continue the drugs. So
Yeah.
I think that's what the person is saying. If he wants you to take any drugs, he would have prescribed it for you. But it's very obvious your child has something in the nose, a foreign
A
body,
foreign
but
object.
it's moved, and the smell has stopped. So what else do we need to give drugs for? So there's really no need for it. Anyway, let's just move. Okay, let me go to
Instagram, please.
oh, I
Yeah.
forget my Instagram people. Sorry, apologies. Um,
Sorry.
okay, there's a lot of questions by Miss um Mikun. Good evening. My baby started complementary feeding 3 weeks ago, but pulls once a week. Since what I give him water after feeding, fruits, blah blah blah. Okay. So how often was your baby pouring before? You didn't tell us that. Okay, and what exactly are you giving the baby as complementary feeding? Those are the information we need to know. I'm trying to see whether you wrote more questions. Okay, say baby is 6 months old. Yeah. So what really happens for complementary feeding? What happens with stool generally is not whether the baby passes stools once a week or whether the baby passes stools once a day or anything. Is the texture of the stool? Is it hard? Is it soft? That's the question we didn't really need to answer. So if your baby is passing normal stools, even if it's once a week, because everybody has different bowel pattern. So some people move their bowel every day. Some babies can do it every 2 days. Some people every 3 days. So once a week is actually going towards the extreme. But then the question is, what exactly is the baby eating? And remember that complementary feeding is still, at 6 months, is still predominantly breastfeeding. It is not formula feeding. A lot of mothers do wrong complementary feeding. Complementary feeding is not formula feeding. You don't even have to give any formula. It's still breast milk, 80% for a 6 month old, and then you are adding semi-solid or porridge and all that to it. So that is the most important thing. So you really need to make sure that you are still breastfeeding as much as possible. The way you were breastfeeding before, that's what you should continue. And then you give semi-solids, porridge, pap, thick pap, whatever. Of course, fruits and all that. So if you give that, there's no way your baby will be constipated. That's it. And for babies that are on breast milk, they may not pass stool every day. So it's important for us to have clarity on what exactly is the complementary feed that this baby is being given, because that will really help us to know. So if you have not uh, taken our course on complementary feeding, I think you should do that. Okay, said before it was doing once a day. Yeah, so there's something wrong. I don't know if you're still listening. Just tell us the updates on that, exactly what baby is feeding. But my default thinking is that, are you just doing only formula feeding now? And if your baby is on formula, they can be constipated. You have to give them water, but you say you're giving water. But how often is the baby being fed? Baby 6 months old should not have more than 2 meals of complementary feeding a day. The rest of it should be 80% of it should still be breastfeeding, and then the quantity is just about half a cup that they should take, and it should have to be stick porridge or mash, those are the kind of things we expect for a 6 month old. So I would still recommend you go through our complementary feeding videos. Make sure you're doing the right thing first before, but there's no reason why we should go from once a day to once a week. There's something not right somewhere.
Wow.
So we need to get that information right. All right. I think our time is up. We
Yeah,
have 10 more
we still have
minutes.
questions on Facebook. Okay. Christina Rio, my 3 months, 2 weeks baby has something written like a signature on her Clara, although not freezable. I have taken her to the hospital, but the doctor said it's nothing to worry about.
Then it is nothing to worry about. So just leave it
Yeah,
alone. If
just
it is
leave it.
something to worry about, the doctor would have told you. So just I think you just want like a second opinion. But if there's something in the eyes, in the white part of the eye that is not even fixable, I'm
Yeah,
sure nobody's going to worry about that. And if the doctor has seen it and the doctor is not worried, then we're not worried. We all don't always have a perfectly white sclera. There's always some little bits of some things inside it. That's still fine. What we
yeah.
worry about is if there's something red, if there's something yellow, if there's something brown. Those are the things that doctors worry about in the eyes. Every other thing else, nobody's going to worry about it.
My baby don't have a single teeth. She'll be one soon. Is this a problem? What can I do?
It is not a problem. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. So
Wait,
some
wait,
babies don't.
don't rush your baby.
Some babies don't bring out their first set of teeth until they're about 13 months old, and it's
Yeah.
perfectly normal. So it's just everybody has their own time. So you can see the dentist when your baby is one, because the dentist wants to see you, teeth or no teeth. The dentist wants to see your baby for their first dental appointment at age of 1. So you can see them, but there's no reason to worry. All right.
Yeah. I gave birth at 35 weeks and my baby birth weight is 2.5 kg, but I had serious typhoid few weeks to my delivery. My baby is in white summer yellowish, but I thought it's jaundice.
Mm.
But the doctor said it isn't, that it's as a result of the typhoid I had. She will be a month in few days. I want to know if it's necessary to still take her to another hospital, but I have no complaint at all. She feels well and we are fine.
So the question for you is: did the doctor takes a blood test? So I definitely worry about you having a baby at 35 weeks, and your
Yeah.
baby was 2.5 kilo. That's fine, normal weight. But if your baby ever even have a slight tinge of jaundice, we need to do a blood test. We need to do the jaundice test, and we need to know your baby is already 1 month. Is it 1 month old now? I
Yes, the
don't know.
baby is 1 month now.
So I doubt if it's relevant at this
Even
point.
1 month and few days. Oh, it's going to be 1 month
Yeah,
in few days.
it's irrelevant at this age. But if your baby has had jaundice, every preterm baby, 80% of preterm babies are going to have
Yeah.
jaundice. 80% of them will have jaundice. So a doctor should have checked for jaundice level. Pediatricians don't. So I'm very sure this doctor is not a pediatrician. The
Mm,
pediatricians don't talk like that. Your baby
yeah.
has a little tinge of yellow. We're taking blood, and then we can tell you, okay, the level of the jaundice is not high. We don't need
Yeah.
to do anything, or it is a level that we need to put under for the therapy light, or it's a level that we need to even change the blood. That is how we answer those kind of questions. We don't just tell you it's typhoid. Typhoid fever in the mother does not cause jaundice in the baby. Malaria in the mother does not cause jaundice in the baby. They are not the cause. Even this your typhoid fever, I hope it is typhoid we have, because every Nigeria is either having malaria or typhoid. Most of the time, most people don't have any typhoid, but it's a pandemic in Nigeria. Anyway, so but the issue is that if you are still concerned about it, you can go and do a blood test for jaundice. But I personally don't think I'm going to worry about it at this point. If your baby
Mm,
had jaundice and it's a bad one, it would have caused whatever harm it's going to cause by now.
yeah.
So if it is not a severe one, so we thank God. So we won't have to worry about it. But your baby was is still preterm, even though your baby was because your baby was born at 35 weeks. Your baby is still preterm. It's a late
35.
preterm. Yeah. So this baby should still be under the follow-up of a pediatrician, even though the baby seems to be doing well. I'm happy your baby is feeding well. Your baby is fine. Though you didn't tell us how you know your baby is fine. You didn't tell us the weight of the baby currently and all those other there are what we call objective parameters for us to say a baby is fine. So it's not just by you saying baby
Fine.
is fine. It is based on some things. Baby is eating well, which is good. Baby gaining weight well, which is good. Those are the things we check. Baby's developmental milestones coming up along. Those are the things that we're looking out for. So, but I deliberately go into the details, not because there's anything we can do for your baby now, but so that if it happens in future, you know what to request.
Do.
Yeah, so a baby that has yellow eyes should have a serum bilirubin test done by the hospital before they will say, oh, it is not anything. And the fact that a baby was born preterm alone is enough to give your baby jaundice. So
Yes.
anyway,
I,
let's
I
leave
think
that one.
to be on a safer side next time, they should just request for the test. They are going to pay for it, so
Yeah,
they
of
should
course.
request. You are
Yeah,
paying for it, not the doctor. So you request for it and go for it. Thank you, ma.
yeah.
Is it okay to give a year 2 month old child orange?
Yes, now why not? Yes, please give them oranges. Give them. Is there a reason why you're asking that question? Because you can actually give them from 6 months old.
Yes.
So maybe you have something in mind. Do you worry? Some people worry about acidity. Some people worry about.
Yes.
That's something these people read about that worries them. But orange is okay to give a 1 year old child. It's actually even okay to give a 6 month old. But for 6 month old, you can just dilute this a bit with
Yeah.
water. But it's okay. You can give them. All right. Somebody's asking on Instagram, do you do this live weekly? Yes, we do it weekly.
Yes.
We do it
Every Monday.
weekly. And you can watch all the past episodes on our Instagram TV, IGTV, on our profile, on our Instagram page. You can watch it on our YouTube channel, ATP TV. You can watch it on our Facebook pages as well. So if you look at any of our flyers, all the details of where you can watch all these programs, they are there.
Okay.
All right. I hope that's helpful. I think that's
Yeah.
all the question I
That's
have.
all we have on Facebook too.
Well, all right, I guess today's a good day maybe because Samalara is around today. Maybe it's me. It will only be. I'll be rushing to finish at 7 p.m. Oh no, we have 3 minutes, so it's a good day. All right,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Abimbola, for joining me today. Makes my life easier because I don't have
Thank you
to.
for having me. Thank you for having me,
Yes.
ma.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. But to say that if you still have any questions on your children health issues, you can always ask the pediatricians. You can ask us on our Facebook group from Mondays to Saturdays. Just go to Facebook, type in Ask the Pediatricians. You can't miss our Facebook group. It's 700,000
Yeah.
strong. So you can't miss us on Facebook. So you can always ask the questions on any children health issues from Mondays to Saturdays. And our professionals, moderators will be there to answer your questions. Of course, we don't attend to emergencies. We don't prescribe. It's not an hospital, but we just provide you that support. You just want to clarify anything about the health of your children, you can ask us. You can, if for your own health as adults, you can ask on our ATP family, also on Facebook. And for first time mother, we also have the FCM baby care group. You can ask the questions there. We also have the ATP still a mom group for those who have experienced either loss of a pregnancy or loss of a child. We provide emotional support. And so you can watch all our programs on our YouTube channel. Also on Thursday, I do the ATP hour on Fresh Waves Radio, and it's just for me talking about a particular topic. So you can also listen, or you can check my podcast, Ask Dr. Bemi ATP. It's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, no, Amazon Music, and all the most podcast platform. You can listen to some of my podcasts there as well. All right. Is there any other thing I've forgotten to announce? I think that is
Yeah, nothing
yeah.
much.
But if you want to have a one-to-one session with our pediatricians, our
Yeah.
professionals, you can send us a WhatsApp message. I'm sure some of you can see the number on your screen somewhere, and but that is a premium service. You pay for that, and it's not so expensive, but you pay for it. You can also check us out for that. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, everyone, for joining us. So please, if you have any other questions, maybe you're asking a question and we didn't answer it, kindly go on our Facebook page and ask the questions there. I'm sure our moderators and professionals are going to answer them within few minutes. Actually, our answering period is between few minutes and 24 hours. So you're going to get answers to that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Let's see you next week, same time, both on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Same time next week with Dr. Gbemisola Boyede. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you. Somebody is asking for our Facebook link. I've just sent it to you.
Oh,
But like
okay.
I said, if you look
All
at
right.
my back, the flyer itself, all those links are there as well.
Yeah,
And I
we
think,
have a question.
yeah, somebody is asking about each rashes. Please, if you can
Yeah.
post the picture of the child with the rash on the Facebook group, we will answer that because some people call some things itch rashes, they are not itch rashes. So we like to
Mm.
see the rashes before we agree or disagree. All right. I think that is
We have another one question more, please.
uh,
My baby of 7 weeks experienced colic in the afternoon, but she sleep well at night. So my question is that normal?
that doesn't sound like colic to me. So every crying is not colic. So crying
Yeah.
is not colic. So baby can cry for many reasons. So colic by definition means your baby cry continuously for, so we actually have the rules of three, like 3 hours a day, then three, is it 3 weeks? No, I'm beginning to forget it now. So in other words, baby cries so long. It's usually, you will know colic is different because the baby will cry so long, and everything you try to do will
Yeah.
be, be difficult to get the baby to
Yeah, the
calm
baby
down.
will be so cranky.
Yeah, so baby is crying. Another, if you can read about colic on our website and understand first. It's very
Yeah.
unlikely. So 7 weeks, it's possible, but it's very unlikely though. So I
Yeah.
just want you to know that every crying is not colic. So you need to really define how do you know the baby has colic. So
Correct.
we need to have that information first, so we know whether you are referring to colic. For me, I always prefer parents tell us what you see, what the baby is doing, rather than make assumption of what it is, rather than tell us it's colic, it's this, is that, because you can just mislead us completely. But if you explain it to us in your own words, what the baby is actually doing, then we can give the medical jargons that goes with us. So I hope that's helpful. So sorry, our time is up. We have said goodbye. For all the questions that are coming in, you are late. Please post it directly on our Facebook group.
Facebook
We'll see
page.
you again next week by God's grace.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.